All right, so I'm back with a new video today. If you're new to my channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. Very welcome here, and I hope you enjoy it. So this subject is about, as you can see on the screen here, what if they don't wake up? You must connect and discern from the heart center. So we have this situation going on right now, and this is happening in my personal life. And I'm happy to be authentic and transparent about it. And I also want to share it because I think a lot of people may be able to relate to this experience at this specific time. So during this whole lockdown experience, um, in the last, I would say, couple of months or so, there's been this change in the energy. So what if they don't wake up? What am I talking about? I'm talking about the strange experience that you may be having with friends or family, relatives, or just connections that you have in life. And this experience that you're aware of a real shift going on, you're aware of a conscious alignment within yourself, that there's a new paradigm that you're moving into, and that you recognize the deceit and the dishonesty within the mainstream and a lot of the narratives being fed to people. And I would like to compare it to sort of standing outside of a bubble and then looking into the bubble where the people in the bubble appear to feel like they're under a spell. And that's the best way I can put it because that's my personal experience. So people that I've known for a long time, not everybody, but certain people, I can feel myself having a conversation with them, and yet you don't get heard. They don't hear what you're saying. There's not a resonance, there's not a connection. You know, like in the past, maybe you would agree on certain things and disagree on certain other things. And, you know, you might get triggered, you might get angry, or you may resonate very well with each other. But whatever it was, there was a resonance, there was a connective experience that you were having. Now there's this experience where when you're sort of standing outside of this bubble, you see people that you recognize the person and you have a history with the person, but they don't hear you. They're not feeling the resonance. And this is because there's a misalignment going on. And what I would compare this to is a raising of frequency, and it's like you're at this point where you're shifting into different directions. Now, that's not to say that other people won't wake up, and it's also, I'm making it very clear, I'm not talking about someone being better or worse than anybody else because they're more aware at this point of everything that's going on. That's not what I'm saying. It's not that someone's better or worse, it's that we're experiencing it at different speeds. And because of that, it's very difficult to create that connection in certain situations. And you may experience, this is what's happened to me, certain people simply don't hear me. You know, it's not like you say something and then they'll come back with a question like, "Oh, well, what do you mean? What's all that about? Or I haven't heard about that, or I disagree with that. That's nonsense." Like nothing. There's just no reaction because they're just not on the same frequency. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate when they look on social media where there's this almost like boxes where you've got people who believe on a certain political side, people who believe on the other political side, and they don't mix. And when they try to mix, sometimes it can be aggressive, sometimes it can be ego driven, whatever it is, but there isn't really a conversation being had. There's a shutdown. There's like, well, I don't want to hear that, or I don't hear that. Perhaps more importantly, I don't hear you. I don't resonate. I don't understand what you're saying. It doesn't exist in my world. And this is why it's so important for people at this point in time to connect and discern from the heart center. So, what do I mean? I'm really talking about there's never been a time that's more important to play your part in an ascension process. So, as we ascend, so you are going through an experience where you need to connect with your heart center when you make decisions. So, when you receive information, including the information that I'm giving you today, because I'm not counting myself out of that at all, you've got to discern it. You've got to take it in and say, okay, does that resonate with me? Like, is that truth to me? Do I relate to that? And if you don't, then obviously you need to go your own way with it. But so many people are buying into mainstream narratives that you can feel on a deeper level is not authentic, it's not transparent, and it doesn't come from integrity, and yet they still sort of sit within the energy. And that's what I would equate to something like being under a spell. You know, when we used to watch the childhood fairy tales and things like that, and you remember the character in the movie that would be outside of the spell, but he sees his friends or his family stuck in the spell, and his path or his journey is to find a way to break the spell so they can set them free. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. It's like you're watching outside because you're not a part of that anymore, and you're like, what? Well, why are they not waking up? What's going on? What's happening here? And yet, on a deeper level, you know that it's an experience that people are having at different speeds. But there's this disconnection where there isn't a conversation being had, and that's because you're not on the same wavelength, quite literally. So what's going on, what's the best way to handle it, is to connect and discern with the heart center so that you can be the most authentic version of yourself during that transition, because that's so valuable for your own inner peace, for your own, it's always been important that we come from the truth of who we are, but now we're kind of being asked by consciousness, if you want to be a part of the change, then that's an essential part of making it happen. It's an inside job as well as an outside reflection job. This is a quote from George Carlin. If honesty was suddenly introduced into American life, the whole system would collapse. And it's funny because that's what's happening now. Essentially, every structure is going to come down, and the authenticity or the lack of authenticity within those structures, whether it's the financial system, the educational system, whatever system that's supported society, has always been inverted. It's always been steeped in manipulation and dishonesty. So that quote that he made, and obviously he made it some years ago, has now never been truer, because that's exactly what's going to take place. Everything's going to come down and it will be rebuilt. It will be reborn. It will be anew, and the new will be based in that energy. Hence the importance of us all playing our part individually and collectively to resonate and be of the same energy as that. Because if you are aligning with that energy, that's the experience that you're going to walk into, and it's going to feel like you're walking into it rather than you're really fighting for a way to experience it. In other words, it will be a relaxed transition for you if you're willing to take a journey in that manner. And finally on here, quantum technologies. So this is interesting because quantum technologies are going to be rolled out soon. And we have the ability within blockchain technology now to be able to do things sort of on a physical realm, and also what you could call like a 5D realm, meaning it's part physical, it's part non-physical. And what you can do with quantum technologies is you can effectively create something that's unhackable, that's totally transparent, that's totally authentic, and therefore it has to serve the one and all collectively equally for it to operate correctly. So to give you an example, if quantum technology is implemented in the voting system, what would happen is you would have one vote for one person. There wouldn't be a chance to duplicate it because you'd only have one identity, and it would recognize that, and that person would be recognized on the system so that I could look at your vote, you could look at my vote, and it would be transparent in that sense. It would also add all the votes up very quickly. But what you're getting is something that's honest and authentic and verifiable and unhackable, because it's not a frequency that hacking can take place within. Likewise, if you look at the educational system and you change that into quantum technologies, now you've got a situation where you don't have to worry about an experience where it's manipulated to a left or a right agenda. There's no indoctrination of children. Therefore, it's for the one, for the all, and so on and so on. And so whichever part of society implemented into quantum technologies, this is how it would play out. And indeed, this is what's going to happen. So it's going to roll out over time, but the speed of it, or rather the timelines, is going to depend on us. How awake are we? Because you need a certain amount of people that are resonating on that so that you can become aligned to that quantum experience. Or you could say the quantum experience becomes aligned to the person. Whichever way round you see it, it's valid. And that's how it would work. It's literally starting everything anew, and it's a wonderful thing. So just one more point on this. back to that original slide. What if they don't wake up? So if you have friends, you have relatives, you have loved ones, you have anybody really within your experience that you feel like they're not resonating with you right now, or you can't hear them right now, don't worry about it. Work on yourself. It's easy to say that, it's harder to do that. And I say that from personal experience. But your job is to connect and discern. So when you get information from sources that you feel deep down and that you can't trust, your gut is telling you this isn't right. And we know a lot of those ones. If I mention them on a video here, my video could be banned. That's the reality that we're currently living in. So I'm not going to name names, but you know what I mean. And anybody that's giving you information, that's your job. If you can discern it from the heart center, what you're doing is you're going within. You're going to the part of you that's not stuck in just physical reality. It's not a matrix existence. It's the part that is outside of all that. And it's the real, it's the truth, it's the essence of who you are. So if you focus on that, it's like that old analogy that if you've lifted yourself up, you can offer a hand down to a friend to lift them up, but you would never want to lower yourself down in order to be with them, because that's not helping anybody. So the whole idea is to represent the essence, the truth, the wholeness of who you are. And it comes from that place of honesty and integrity. And connecting and discerning from your heart center is the way to do it. And now is the time to do it more so than ever before. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like. Please subscribe to my channel and leave some comments. Speak about what you feel. Have you had this experience yourself? I'd love to hear from people that have, because I've had that experience quite a lot recently, and it's very interesting, sometimes frustrating phenomena to go through when your friends don't hear you. So let me know what you think, and have a wonderful day.